Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Speed Street podcast. We are in the IndyCar offseason, but this is still an IndyCar podcast, and there's been a lot that's going on. My name is Connor Daly. I participated in the NTT IndyCar Series this year, number 76, Juncos Hollinger Racing, Chevrolet. I want to get something right off the bat. Our show last week, we can't possibly know when people are going to announce things unless we get like a tip, and we didn't get any tips. Now, all that was announced, I knew that it was happening, but I respect the game. I'm not going to go out there, spoil anyone's news. And hey, shout out to the Off Track podcast as well with Hinch and Alex. Hinch and Alex are obviously very close to Dan Towers, Colton, the whole Cadillac Formula One team, all that operation. And they set up some great interviews. And I'm not going to lie, they were great. I listened to them all. They dropped all the big news. And then later on in the week also, there was an internet clip that maybe got them, there was maybe a tough, I'm not going to talk too much about that one, but it was kind of a wild progression of that podcast. It was an amazing episode with lots of interviews. And then they got a bit of shade for some stuff. So, but again, they dropped the news. Shout out them.
Fun clip.
Go listen to the Off Track podcast as well if you want to hear directly from Colton Herta, from Dan Towers. I mean, that was really cool to get all them and Will Power wrapped into one interview. But we released our show on Wednesday and we record on Tuesday. All the news came out on Wednesday. So you know what? Hand up. That's on us. Sorry about that. Sorry about our timing. I didn't know Wednesday was the day. And I want to apologize to our listeners who come to us for news because we missed the news.
We had fun though. We had a great time.
I thought it was a great episode. Yeah, it was a great episode.
Yeah.
I tried to speculate. Yeah, but now that there's a lot of the news that is out, we will talk about it. And guess what? This is still a Tuesday. And if there's stuff that comes out on Wednesday, I'm going to take that as a personal shot at our show. I think people know, and they don't want to let us get any information. Who knows? I'm just kidding. That's probably not what's happening. But it's been a busy last few days. I thought about doing an emergency episode. We thought about maybe recording on a Friday, but we could have just waited because all the hype and all the craziness. Everyone continue to talk about the Colton Herta stuff, and we will get to that. We're gonna get to that. No guest today because we're gonna go deep into the championship. This is a championship review episode. We're gonna go position by position. We're gonna give you some best finishes, best qualifying positions, road course and oval. We're gonna go through who led how many laps during the year. I think that's just kind of cool to kind of just review what went on, how it went down, maybe give some personal thoughts on a few different moments during the year, just to kind of get everyone up to speed. And now next week, I don't know if you guys remember, if folks listened at the beginning of the season, we did a power rankings, which everyone loves a good power rankings. Right now, the NFL season has started. So we've got, after week one, there's a new power rankings for all the teams. You power rank quarterbacks. We're going to give our power rankings where we thought everyone was 1 to 27 next week on the show. And I even had a driver come up to me over the weekend. I was out on the town on a Saturday night. There's several other IndyCar drivers out there with me. He was like, "Oh, you better rank me okay on the power rankings." So I'm not going to say who that is yet, but we're going to talk about it next week. And we're going to get deep into the power rankings and probably find an interesting guest as well. So Chase, there's been a lot of news that's happening. I want to start with the silly season stuff because I think that's what a lot of people want to hear about. Solid. We're going to start with all the silliness, and then we're going to get into our championship rankings. Well, not championship rankings, but just the IndyCar championship broken down a little bit more, so people understand where everyone was, how it all went down, and what were some highlights and lowlights of some people's seasons. So the biggest news of the silly season so far, Chase, Will Power is going to drive for the Andretti organization, Andretti Global, formerly Andretti Autosport, TWG, the whole program. And Colton Herta is going to Formula 2 to pursue Formula 1. And Colton Herta is now the Cadillac Formula 1 test driver, which is Awesome. I think that's amazing.
I'm curious real quick. What
Yeah.
so I found out I don't know hardly anything about Formula One. So I found out that a test driver is something different than like a reserve driver. Like what can you explain what a test driver does?
So that's actually a good question because I was a test driver for a Formula One team. So I wasn't the reserve driver. I wasn't there on the race weekend ready to jump in the car to race. But I was testing the car and doing the simulator development for the Force India Formula One team. Picture over my right shoulder there. So I was doing all the straight line testing for the team, some of the off weekend, the secret stuff that not really was publicized, but we got to take iPhone photographs and grainy like still shots that we obviously still have. I wasn't even given a suit at the time, but I did get gloves, some Force India gloves to use, but it was like very low key. But now the roles as test driver are very much like, oh wait, this is a real deal. Like this is a thing. So Colton will definitely be in pursuit of super license points, which I know are a little bit, that whole thing is a debate in general, but the reason he can't be the reserve driver, I don't believe, is because technically he doesn't have enough super license points yet to be the guy who can fill in, like if one of those guys got injured next year during a race weekend. So he is officially tied to the organization. I'm sure he can immediately get on the simulator and start doing a bunch of work on the simulator with them, which is in Charlotte, oddly enough. And I believe that's where it stands. So his goal by doing F2 is to reach Formula One. And what a move, honestly. What a move. And we will also talk about, Rinus VeeKay also announced that he is not coming back to Dale Coyne Racing, which I think we might have talked about a little bit, but let's talk about maybe some options for him. I think immediately a lot of people assumed he was going one place, so we can talk about that. But I want to get right to the elephant in the room, which is the Colton Andretti, Will Power Andretti situation. I had a conversation with Colton a couple years ago now. There was a lot of rumors that Colton was going to go to Formula One a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
We were in Vegas for his birthday and talked a lot about that move, like what that would be like. And I was like, dude, I told Colton at the time, I said, you are young. You are so fast. And you are a truly gifted driver. Like you have, and I think a lot of people will say that. Certainly all the drivers that commented on, Colton's announcement. Colton there's something special to him that I believe gives him the best chance for us as Americans, you know what I mean, to have a successful run at Formula One. And, this was a couple years ago, and he wanted to do it. He was like, I pursuing Formula One would be sick. And it would be an amazing opportunity. Now, it took him a couple years, obviously, and now we're here, and he is taking that chance, but he's still so young. Like, that's the crazy part. He is still young enough to go do it. And I, myself, couldn't be more excited to not only cheer for Colton, but to get into it on the internet with F1 Twitter about Colton. I can't wait to start all kinds of start defending him on the internet versus the people who have no idea what's going on about IndyCar. There were some quotes from Formula One drivers already about Colton and about IndyCar that I think are super important for people to hear. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, I don't know if you guys know them, but they're fighting for the World Championship currently. Lando knows Colton very well. We all played golf together in Vegas last year. Lando raced against Colton when they were younger. Both of those drivers, and what's so funny about F1 Twitter sometimes, and some of the people that argue or that just honestly just talk a bunch of crap to IndyCar, they idolize these Formula One drivers as if they are gods. And the Formula One drivers, they have so much respect for what we are doing. Like the direct quotes for how competitive IndyCar is and how good it is as a series and how much respect Lando has for Colton already. I mean, that right there is all the proof that you need that, like, look, might it be completely different levels? Yes, Formula One is the world championship. It is the highest level. We all respect and understand that. But there is no reason for that side of the world or even that entire fan base to completely disrespect what's going on over here. There's just no reason for it, because the professionals that the fan bases support over there, a lot of those drivers, if not the majority of those drivers, have a lot of respect for what we are doing over here, which I thought was really cool. I think that article, I'm going to actually look it up because I want to read read that article directly. But did you see those quotes? Yeah,
I did. I saw. I mean, I didn't dive deep into the article, but I did see where Lando Norris had some words about him, and I had already seen, just from talking with you, and then from knowing that this has kind of been in the back of Colton's mind, and I feel like obviously, apparently, in a lot of drivers' minds over here on this side of the pond. I do think that it's good that these guys have a lot to say about IndyCar, but it's how many people across the world are really going to read that. It's kind of the same thing with like soccer and NFL football. You know, like F1 racing is kind of like the soccer of racing, where like everyone in the world revolves around that one ball sport. But then you have all these meccas over here in America that are piling up. So, I mean, I think there's always going to be that wall there, that bridge there. But to hear those guys have kind words about a series that, you know, you and I love so much is good to see that they can show some respect, because I don't think it's always been that way.
Yeah, I have the Lando Norris quote here. He's an extremely talented driver. This is talking about Colton Herta, and someone I enjoyed a lot growing up with in 2015. I think he's skilled enough to jump in anything and be quick, but being one of the best in Formula One is what's difficult, which is true. And if that's his goal, if his goal is still not to just come in as a test driver, but in the next few years become a Formula One driver and a race driver, of course, it gets tricky. But he's easily capable of potentially being in Formula One and those kind of things. And I look forward to hopefully seeing him there, which is awesome. I mean, that's again, he has a lot to prove, and there will be a lot to learn, absolutely, getting into the series. But I think the respect that's there is fantastic. And even Lando himself, which this is, I don't think people, until you actually, it's hard for us to say how much anti everything over here, you know, the FIA and Europe in general is. I mean, I know people might get angry about that, but like I lived it, I saw it. It's not, I can only just impart to you what it is. But the fact that But the fact that Formula 2 is ranked above IndyCar and super license points is literally just, it's the dumbest thing of all time.
It's a slap in the face.
People are literally living and making money at a top level professional motor racing series. Formula 1 drivers come over and race in the Indy 500. I don't know. I mean, and Formula 2 has more super license points. It's the most obvious absurdity of all time. And even Lando Norris says, I don't know how many FIA super license points they get in IndyCar, but I would put it above the level of F2 in a way. And it's like, yeah, I would, obviously.
Good to hear Lando say that.
I mean, it's literally the most obvious thing ever. So the thing that Colton has to do to get a super license is go to Formula 2, which hand up, I've been a Formula 2 driver. I don't know if you know that. I raced in half an F2 season with the bottom level team that you could have been with. I was like it was essentially the same car I showed up at the Daytona 500 with. It was a little bit bouncy as I left the grid. It was a little tough. We might not have had the most slipstream efficient car, but we scored points in Monaco. No big deal. It's a challenging series, but Dan Towers from the Cadillac Formula One team, TWG, you know, he said, and even over the weekend in Monza, he was being interviewed by Juan Pablo Montoya, oddly enough, which is hilarious. Juan Pablo Montoya went from Champ Car to F1, which IndyCar to F1, which is cool.
Love Juan Pablo, man.
Yeah, Juan Pablo, he's a dog. They want to respect the path, which I understand. What if Colton Herta has 18 engine failures? You know what I mean?
Could happen.
That could happen. Racing is insane. And I don't want to think about it, but maybe there's some no, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that.
That's not.
We're not going to get into that. But
it was cool that Juan Pablo had those. He had some concerns. You could tell Juan Pablo was a little off put by like why this move. Dan, he kept his composure. I did watch that. I mean, so I follow along. I'll see clips and stuff like that online. But the ultimate thing here is, and what all this really matters for Colton, like all that matters is that he is pursuing something that he personally wants to. This is a dream for him. This is something, and that's why I put out that I'm never going to knock somebody for going after what they really want, because for all we know, this is the only ride we get. Go. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
That's the way I see it.
He's going to learn a lot of the tracks. There's going to be a little bit of testing. Formula 2 doesn't get a ton of testing, but he will learn the tracks in case the Formula 1 seat does become available. Watching some of the F2, oddly enough, I paid more attention to F2 over the weekend. There's some driving there that, again, you look at it and you're like, Colton is going to be very annoyed with some of these fellas. I got to say, like, there is some thoughtless driving that goes on in that series, because there's a lot of young folks trying to make it to Formula 1. But I think Colton at a maturity level, at a skill level, I think he absolutely has what it takes. I'm not saying that Colton Herta is immediately just going to go in and win the Formula 2 championship. In fact, I don't think that's going to happen. But I do believe that Colton has a chance, depending on what team he goes with. I do believe he has a great chance to be successful. And I think he is going to be the biggest media target of all time in Formula 2. He's going to be scrutinized at a level that has never been scrutinized before, like a driver has never been scrutinized before. I truly believe that because, he is the youngest IndyCar race winner in history. He's got poles, he's got wins, he's got plenty of trophies from over here. And he is essentially putting that all aside. Because, again, I don't know if you guys know, Colton's the highest paid IndyCar driver right now. Highest paid IndyCar driver. Like, he's making good money being a race car driver. And he's young enough to just go do it. And I respect the heck out of it. I'm going to be his biggest cheerleader. I'm going to go over there. I don't care. I don't care if the F2 race is at 9 in in Budapest, Hungary. I want to go over there. I want to see it. I want to be right there, ground level. I'm going to keep my eyes on it. I'm going to be like a bodyguard. I'm going to figure, hey, if you guys are trying to mess with Colton Herta, that ain't going to happen.
Make yourself an honorary coach. Make yourself an honorary head coach.
Oh, I'm not a coach. I'm not a coach, but I'm going to be a defender. I'm going to be a Colton Herta defender.
The world's a weird place right now. You can just call yourself anything if you have a dry erase board and a whistle.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. So yeah,
but on the other side, I did want to ask you on the other side of this, with all that said about Colton, like I thought a lot this weekend about what 2026 looks like with Will Power at Andretti.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to my mind, Connor, his sense of humor. How does it fit in with Kyle and Marcus and the Andretti team? Because Colton had a little bit more of that kind of dry, memeable, he loves to rickroll. He loves to do stuff like this. I'm looking at it from just the personality standpoint, because whether you want to believe it or not, like a fraction of that is baked into the overall performance wherever you are and whatever you do in life. He's got a very absurdist or abstract humor. Will Power does. Like how does the relationships, a lot more of those guys that are behind the wall at Andretti. How do you think some of these relationships are going to look?
I think he's going to fit in there quite well. I think Will Power could qualify on pole for every single street race. Andretti have been so good on the street courses. We've obviously seen that with Kyle Kirkwood's wins, with Colton Herta as well. And Will Power has such an incredible talent at extracting, pole positions, and Andretti has been really good on the street courses. I think there are a couple places that Andretti still, as a group, I believe they, can work on and certainly have a need to improve. But think of the wealth of knowledge that Will Power brings from so many years at Penske.
Yeah.
I believe that team has an opportunity, and Kyle Kirkwood especially has an opportunity to take advantage of that level of information, to take advantage of Will Power's data being, one of the best, one of the fastest drivers in the series, as Colton Herta was as well. But Will has so much experience and so much information to go off of. So I think he's going to fit in well. And, I don't know how long that deal is, but obviously it just gives Will a fresh start. I truly believe that no matter what, just the way the whole last year went at Penske and just the way I believe it looked like he was treated and the way, he was still the most successful Penske driver in the championship. And he wasn't really offered a long enough deal or whatever it was, which I understand because Penske does at some point, they do go to that next young hot shoe. They do try to find that next young stud. Joseph Newgarden was a young stud at the time, and boom, Penske guy. So I do believe that obviously there's a lot of rumor about David Malukas going there. I mean, I obviously think that that's all but announced, right? Unless something crazy happens, Rinus VeeKay's out on the table. Who knows? I think Rinus VeeKay would be a good Penske driver. I think he'd be really good there.
That. Yeah, I got some thoughts on that we'll get into.
We'll talk a little bit about that later, but yeah, I think Will Power is going to fit in well there. I think it's not having Colton Herta in the IndyCar series. Will I think be more weird? That's just going to be like it won't seem right. Like Colton, I got to race a lot against Colton this year too. We had some amazing battles, and I really enjoy racing against Colton and hanging out with Colton. I believe he's one of my best friends in this paddock. So to see him go away is very sad, but only a couple flights away. We'll figure it out. So yeah. I think Will Power will fit in well. I think we're going to see a lot more social content with Will Power. Obviously, I think the Andretti operation does a little bit more social content than
they do
the Team Penske organization. So there you go.
They like to have their fun. And one thing, too, that's interesting about this whole deal is Penske, I think that the news is out where they talked about how they're holding on to Will's contract throughout the end of the year, essentially. So he's not really going to get into an Andretti car until the beginning of 2026. Yeah,
so that's just that's a gamesmanship move. You know what I mean? Like Will Power, there's a test I think in October at Mid Ohio that some teams will do, and Penske has the opportunity to basically not let Will do anything with the Andretti team until the new year hits, which is, I mean, that's business, and I'm sure they're still paying out Will Power until the end of the year, so that makes sense.
Hope so.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of wild. I mean, it all happened so fast, I feel like, but Graham Rahal predicted it on this show, didn't he? Graham Rahal predicted it. Graham Rahal knew. Honestly, I had heard rumblings about that for a long time, but I think what we didn't know was, what was it going to be? Marcus out? Was it going to be, was it how could it be anyone else?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was Colton wanting to go to Formula One, and I know I keep going on about it, but I think it's going to be one of the coolest things, I think, for everyone in this country who likes motorsport. And I think you're going to see a lot of NASCAR folks even following this as well. I think it's a cool story because we've just not seen this in a long time. We've not seen an IndyCar driver who is at the top of his game get a chance to go overseas and not only pursue Formula One, but to race in the feeder series. Like first of all, it's just crazy that he has to do that. But we've just not seen this. So I think it's fascinating to take in as a race fan, because a lot of us who are in this are race fans. Even drivers I'm a race fan. So what a crazy thing. We're going to have to get up at like 6 in the morning, maybe 4 in the morning to watch some of his races, but I'm going to do it. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
I hope ESPN starts a whole new Formula 2 racing package that we can watch. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I've already.
And I want a Colton onboard camera every single race. I want a Colton onboard.
These are the things that matter, right? So it's like these things have to come together, and I'm already at the point to where like I've come out and said I may not fully follow F1, but I'm going to support Cadillac because
absolutely
my grandma drove a Cadillac, dude. You know what I mean? So I grew up in the DeVille. And so I got to stay true to the Cadillac nature. I used to run, Escalades on Midnight Club Dub Edition on PlayStation 2.
Yep, there you go.
So I got to stay true to the game. But I think the big thing that's bittersweet for me is like Colton is what I consider a legacy IndyCar driver. His father had a very big name coming up in IndyCar. And, there's documentaries out there. Obviously, we've all watched Lionheart. We know what Brian brought to IndyCar. And so to see his son come in, it's kind of the same in NASCAR, like with Chase Elliott and Bill Elliott. A lot of people rally around that. So I think that that's one of the things that are kind of bittersweet for me looking at it from, for all the IndyCar fans that are out there. But at the same time, like I look at this more of like, every few years the World Cup comes around and I'm watching all those games. Like that's the one time where I'm locked into some soccer. And so in my mind, that's just kind of the way that I associate F1 racing is kind of like the soccer of racing of the world. And when we have a guy there, I would just be a complete asshole to not go all in and root for that. So I'm in. Don't worry.
Absolutely. And this doesn't happen just because Colton wanted to do it, right? There is still someone who has to pay for this to happen, right?
Pulling the strings.
F2 probably costs $2-3 million to do nowadays. I mean, back when I was trying to do it, I mean, shoot, we were shoestringing it, trying to raise a couple $100,000 here and there, but it was without a doubt minimum $2 million to do it properly.
Running down the dream.
I sent a text to Dan Towers because Dan Towers he's obviously the head of TWG, the Cadillac Formula One team, all that stuff, the head of Andretti Autosport, the whole thing, right? And Dan was very good to me in my career at one point as well. Several years ago, very under the radar. He was helpful for me and both personally and in my career. I sent him a text and said, you know what? I appreciate you for allowing Colton to do this, for giving him the chance to do this, because even if all of us all day can be like, hey, I'd love to do it if I got the chance, but someone has to pay for that to happen. There's funding that has to be set aside to go on this adventure. You know what I mean? And that opportunity was provided to one of the best drivers that I believe that we have certainly on this side of the planet. And I was just like, thank you for allowing us as race fans to get to experience this, and for getting Colton, in an opportunity to, pursue a Formula One seat. So I think that's super cool. And hopefully, Cadillacs, obviously they're going to be out there next year. They're working on things. But yeah, that's Formula 2 is tough. I've been there. But there's a lot of great racetracks, a lot of great races that Colton will learn about. Colton's got to learn about the Pirelli tire, which is obviously it's an interesting animal in itself. The cars itself, for those who don't know much about Formula 2, they are actually somewhat similar to Indy cars when it comes to power and downforce. I still believe our cars are a little bit heavier, but still faster, I would say, on a road and street course. A little bit more. I think we have a little bit more power than they do. But as someone who's driven both of them, literally, I drove an Indy car in 2013 and then raced an F2 car like 2 weeks later. The Indy car at the time was definitely faster, but certainly close. So I think I just can't wait to see it. I'm going to miss Colton a lot. He's my dog. I'm going to miss him a lot. I'm going to go out there. We're going to make sure we get all of our Colton time in before he has to go over there and do some overseas stuff. There was a lot of talk potentially about him still doing the Indy 500. I don't know if people saw that. There is some open dates there that we maybe he could do the Indy 500. Yeah, we did. I don't believe that would be that's a lot to do. That's a lot, but who knows? If there's one team that could do it, it's that team. So yeah, that would be interesting. I would actually love to see a Cadillac branded IndyCar in the Indy 500. I think that'd be cool. Obviously, Chevrolet, GM, they're all in the same category, so I think it'd be kind of cool.
Could use some new manufacturer, I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, but Chevy, it's all General Motors, so yeah,
same guy.
So anyway, that's all I had to say on the Colton stuff. We obviously are late to that news. Everyone knows now, but it'll be one of the most interesting things to follow. But let's talk about some other seats that have been talked about a lot. People are talking about, obviously, my seat. People are talking about the coin seats. Rinus VeeKay. Everyone thought Rinus VeeKay was immediately going to Foyt because everyone obviously knows or thinks that David Malukas is going from Foyt to Penske. But I don't think everything's as clear as people might believe. I obviously don't know exactly what's going on yet. You know, my goal is to obviously stay with this JHR team. I've definitely spoken to other teams about just what's going on, what's the scene look like. But you know, we have started something with this JHR organization. I would love to be back and talking to Brad Hollinger, you know, as much as I do, you know, almost every week now. You know, he's been very, very positive and looking forward to next year. So, you know, we'll see what happens, obviously, as we go. But there's a lot of drivers out there on the sidelines that are, you know, very capable of being in. And just over the weekend, I found myself at a bar with several of them. Jacob Abel, Devlin DeFrancesco, Christian Lundgaard. We were all out together, had a nice time. Very random. I bet you're saying, you're like, I didn't know Connor would consume some cold beverages with Devlin DeFrancesco, but guess what? We did.
What a squad.
We did. And Jacob Abel's out. Jacob Abel, he's good energy out of Jacob Abel. He had a tough year, but good energy. Great energy out of Jacob Abel. And great to see Mr. Lundgaard. Obviously, he's always a hilarious time. But there's obviously a lot of question marks about not only the Devlin seat, but where is Jacob Abel going? Is he going anywhere? I think I just can't wait to figure out what happens or like what's going on. You know what I mean? It's very.
I would say we
very
have
difficult.
like ideas, right? We all have.
We certainly
ideas.
have ideas.
I wouldn't mind talking about some ideas about some things that I could potentially see going down. No factual statements, all speculation, obviously.
If you want to throw them out there, feel free.
One thing that I wanted to talk with you about, we were talking about Rinus VeeKay, and this really hit me earlier today about the situation with everyone is just kind of already wiped their mind clean with the thought of David Malukas going to the 12 car. When you look at the scope of the careers of both of these guys, they're both young guys. Rinus VeeKay, being as young as he is, blew my mind actually, because he's got the face and the build of just like a man that's been places and seen things.
Yeah,
he really
especially
does.
with that mustache in Nashville. Yeah,
it's strong. So IndyCar dropped a photo. You and I were talking about this before we started recording, where it showed VeeKay's top results. The majority of them came from when you and him were teammates at Ed Carpenter Racing. And then they had his second place finish in Toronto with Dale Coy Racing. But looking at all of these, I mean, we've got some basically just a list of top sixes that he's had over the span of his career. And with him already coming out.
Well, it's just his best finish per year, which I don't really understand putting that out there, because I feel like any of us could look like heroes if we put out our best finish per year. Boy, that's a great one.
They're getting crafty. One. They're getting crafty over there at Indy Social. They're trying, you know, they're doing some things.
Second,
I
like to see it. Fifth and sixth in 23, 24. Trust me, I was there. I know how difficult those years were. Not in 24, but 23, I was there for a little bit of it.
So
and I had the best finish for ECR that year until one race that Rinus got on I think the very end of the season.
Yeah. So my point was going to be is just like, when you've got a guy like this that's able to put together some decent finishes with teams like this, you know how, you know, the idea of what these teams are and where you're supposed to probably finish if you race for them. He's had some decent success. And if I'm anybody at Penske and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at like, okay, like let's take all politics, let's take all personal emotions, everything aside, and just kind of look at cold statistics of who should we be looking at for replacing Will Power. To me, VeeKay makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock at David Malukas. I love David to death, but I feel like he has found himself in a really good spot at AJ Foyt Racing. He kind of blends with that team. He kind of just like has a good sitting there.
And it is still Penske.
And it is.
It is a very, very close tie, if not literally getting everything that Penske has. Just, the AJ Foyt group is obviously still working on it and putting it together, but they get the information, they get what they need to be, successful. So, I mean, it's an interesting point. What you say about Rinus going to Penske, I think he would immediately be very good. And I think it would be such a wild shakeup to the situation after all the talk about David Malukas for then Penske to be like, you know what? Rinus is so talented. I think David is too. Yeah. But Rinus for sure has a little bit more experience, is still young, enough to, to get in and get going. But that would be a wild shakeup if for some reason, Rinus and his manager is an aggressive fellow. I'm telling you, I mean, he gets out there and tries to hustle. I saw him walking in and out of every trailer and a lot of like my trailer as well. I'm like, all right, this guy's out here hustling. But I believe that Rinus of all drivers definitely deserves that Penske seat. Now, I think David is very good as well. I think he's been so fast. It's kind of an interesting one. I think David would still be very good in the 4-car again, like as if that was another, couple years down the road to let him develop. Right. But gosh, I just, you got to think that maybe there's business elements on the side as well. You got to think that David Lucas's dad is also in the trucking business. Guess who is also in the trucking business? True. Roger Penske. Roger Penske's in the trucking business. Now, that's not, as a motorsport, used as an athlete who has been deep into the sport, that's what I think about. Because there's a lot of those elements that come into play that you don't think about until you're like, well, maybe there's something there. I don't know. But again, I think those are two drivers who are very deserving. Does Rinus have a few more trophies? Yes. I think Rinus would be very good at Penske. But that would be a big shakeup. That would be
But out the box with the year they just had, I feel like that would make the most sense, especially with the year they just had. Like you need some kind of pick me up. Like you if you're at Penske right now, you're holding on to this contract willpower through the end of the year. I guess I get it, but I really don't. Let it move on, let him get where he needs to be and continue on with his path. But the way that I see it is like that there is the chairs are on fire right now. You have got to be ready to move come March.
Oh yeah.
Because if you are supposed to be one of the top legacy teams, and you just came off of the worst season that you've ever had. So there's a lot they've got to figure out over there. There's a lot that they've got to get together. You're now losing this guy. What makes the most sense? Sometimes you just got to look at things a little bit differently, I guess. But on paper, to me, that just would make the most sense. It may shake some things up. It may make some people feel like they didn't know what was going on, but is that really a bad thing in IndyCar? I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of already know what's happening. Sometimes a little flip the table is could be a good thing. Get people really.
Well, it's my favorite thing to see all the rumor accounts and the people just get proven wrong. That's one of my favorite things ever. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is happening." I'm like, "All right, yeah, cool. Good luck, fellas." But yeah, there's a ton to be decided still. And hopefully this week, none of it comes out so we don't look like a bunch of clowns on this show once again by recording on Tuesdays. But we'll see. I know that there will be a lot of decisions made, I believe, before we get to October, because I having talked to, who's around and what's going on, there is a test at Mid-Ohio that I believe, could be used as an evaluation day for several teams. And I think you will without a doubt see most of this stuff be decided upon, certainly before we get to that test in October. So basically the rest of this month is get your stuff, get it sorted out. And I'm just thankful that we've got great partners like AMPM and ARCO. We've got folks that want to, continue to support my career, which is awesome, and Mankind as well. We've got some great people that want to continue to literally invest in this sport, my career, which is huge. So hopefully we can get all of our stuff locked in, and there's still a lot to unfold. If you guys truly knew what was going on, like behind the scenes, and how many people are interested in charters and trying to get full-time cars on the grid. If there was no charter system right now, I think you'd see like there could be 30 cars on the grid. There's a lot of people that want to be in, but they want to be in because of the charter system. So all the people that hate it on the charter system, you're wrong. Literally, there are so many people who are on the outside right now wanting to get in to our sport. And I think that's great.
That's value.
I really do. Now, we're so early into the charter system that we don't really know how much they're worth, but there are people that are like, hey, we've got a ton of money. We'd like to get in. Well, there's only 25 of them, so you got to figure it out. So it's going to be interesting to see. We've spent a lot of time on this. But yeah, one thing that we got to get to as well is the new Toronto race deal in Markham. IndyCar signs a 5-year deal to move to the Toronto street race to the streets of Markham, which again looked at that track. For some reason, they're going with a double, like the
double pit,
the pit lane. I think that's still the dumbest thing ever. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of that. We haven't come to a worst case scenario with those types of double pit lanes yet, but we will at some point. I think it's kind of crazy, but hey, whatever puts on a cool show. And shout out Canada. Canada loves motor racing. There's been a couple articles recently about the local community maybe not being as much of a fan. Where have we seen that before? There are always going to be people who have no idea what motor racing is and who have no idea how popular this event in Toronto has been. They're obviously going to be mad. But hopefully that all works out and everything's cool. It looks like a cool track, and apparently they're putting a ton of money into it, which is awesome for getting the track prepared. So all of a sudden we have two new street races on the calendar next year. We've got Arlington and Markham. So that's kind of wild. It's been a while since I feel like we've had two brand new street circuits in the same year. Maybe Detroit and Nashville were very new, the new Detroit and the new Nashville. But these are two, I would say two pretty, like the Arlington one's going to be insane and awesome. But Markham could be great as well. That's apparently a great community, a great area of the province of Ontario, which is really cool. So shout out me for knowing that it's a province. You know what? I'm a big maps guy. I can figure it out.
How far is Markham from Toronto?
It's really not that far. I believe they said less than 20 miles. I'm going to go to the internet, but I'm going to go to the Google Maps right now just to check.
Because I would say
I believe it's not far.
Being in Toronto this past year, like there is definitely I was blown away with the support of just people that like to watch cars rip track. Like that's really all it was. Like it didn't matter who was in first, who was leading. Every time the cars went by, right there by where the pit lane
30
was.
minutes.
Okay, 30 minutes. So not far away. So a lot of those people that were at Toronto, you just got to drive 30 minutes to go to Markham. It's pretty simple. But they were just cheering. It just for cars just driving by them. They're like to me, like what that just screams I love cars going fast.
They do.
So you
a lot
only
of
have
race
to drive
fans up
30
there.
minutes away. 30 minutes.
A lot of race fans up there. And we love to see that. A couple other small things. Miles Rowe returns to Able Motorsports for Indy NXT. Obviously, he's a multi-time race winner now. That's really cool to see. Hugo Solinger, my team, returns to Indy NXT. That's great to see as well. I think that we, if I can continue on with that team, that helps us a ton. We get an extra test day. Indy NXT teams who also are IndyCar teams get an extra test day. So that would be huge for us on the IndyCar side. That's just a massive priority. So hopefully we can get some good, the team can get that operation back up and running like crazy. They've been winners, obviously, in Indy NXT before. Ricardo has won for years in the road to Indy. So he definitely knows how to operate that stuff. So yeah, unless Bobby comes up with any news that happens while we're recording, we can probably get into our championship breakdown. What do you think? Should we do that?
I'm ready.
All right, I love it. So what we're going to do just to let people know. Oh, actually, no. One thing we should probably get to. This is interesting, really quick.
There's a few more pieces I think we should dive into. Like we've got, obviously rating. We could mainly talk about. It was good to see the ratings were really high at Nashville. That was a great, strong way to close the season out. We didn't get to talk about that one. For some reason, they weren't out. They waited till Wednesday to release the ratings this past week. So, 1.142 million peaked at 1.388 million. And one thing that I find about this is everyone was making the argument with the whole NASCAR wanting to change the point system.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, look, people still watch races. Of course, people still watch races. Racing is fun. Racing is good. It's a different type of racing. But one concern that I did want to bring up, this is something that I saw earlier, and I wanted to get your take on it. I follow a tech blog online called The Information. And they had something that they put out about the NFL's ratings this weekend about how the future of the rating system might look. And it says the rise of streaming and the NFL's push to the space has accelerated the fragmentation of viewership, making it more difficult for Nelson to keep tabs on viewers. There's a new need for a third party to validate self-reported numbers from digital platforms. This is an interesting topic, Connor, because if the NFL now is having run into this, what does it say about all sports and ratings going into the future as we're moving more into the streaming world? Because everyone now knows on Spotify, an artist can buy bots to listen to their music. People can buy likes and followers on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Are we
Well,
putting
everyone's
too
falling
much
for AI
emphasis?
Facebook pages. Like, everyone thinks the AI Facebook pages are real, which is just... But, it is... Sadly, it is mostly the older community, the older generation, which, again, we love them. That's just great people, but and they're just not used to this technology that's going on right now.
Yeah.
But, I don't think we can... I don't know enough about that to know. I have no idea what the heck that even means. But what I do know is that people are still watching TV, Chase. Like, it doesn't matter. Streaming is very powerful. We saw, millions of people watching the NFL on YouTube, free on YouTube. Like, that was huge. But you're still seeing some of the highest sports ratings on television, for major sporting events. So until that changes, until you see, like, I don't know, the Masters or some incredible, NBA Finals game or the Super Bowl lose, 30 million viewers, I don't think you're going to see everything shift yet. I think there's going to be way more integrations, like obviously Fox One, the streaming app now for Fox. I think you're going to see a lot more integration, but I still think the TV itself is king, like for major sporting events. It just is.
That should be the benchmark. That's kind of what I'm wondering is, like, should we just always continuously operate off of whatever the benchmark for network television is, at least in the near term, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that could be skewed. Things could be changing. I wouldn't doubt it if we saw something in the next 5 years come out with some sport where they were buffing the numbers, whatever. We're entering a weird time. And so I think the thing is right now is, like, when we're looking at the growth of IndyCar, like, this is obviously a huge accomplishment. This is great to see for our first year with Fox, but it's more for me, I guess, about just, like, kind of when you're at the track, if you're going to the track, if you're watching it, people are talking about it online, you kind of trust the vibes and can see kind of like how it's incrementally growing over time. And maybe in the future, from 10 to 15 years from now, whatever. I mean, I know it's a long time away, but it's like, I don't know if we put too much emphasis on ratings, I guess, is where I'm coming from.
I disagree with that entirely. I think ratings are king. I think that's the only thing, like, that's all people talk about.
The only metric you really have, I guess,
Yeah, ratings are literally the most important thing for every sponsor, for every TV network, everything like that. And speaking of that, I do actually have information that Mark Miles sent out to all the drivers individually, which is really cool because I think he was really pumped about this. Everyone at IndyCar was really pumped about this. And I did want to read this. So, while we're talking about television ratings, and again, this was already mentioned in the Hinch and Rossi podcast. So a lot of our listeners probably listen to both. But if you don't, then there's, some information here that's really good. If you're not familiar with it yet, this is for you folks. So, in 2025, the IndyCar series averaged 1.36 million viewers, up 27% from 2024. Guess what? That's good. This is the largest percentage audience growth of any U.S. sport, averaging at least 1 million viewers. That's good. It was IndyCar's most watched season in 17 years. We'll take that as a green check mark. That's good. Growth was especially strong among younger demographics, which I could tell this at the track as well. And this is fantastic for not only sponsors in the series, but for just any sport really wants to try and attract the younger demographic. So 81% growth from the 18 to 34 demographic, 140K versus 78K. And then 18 to 49, up 51%, which is huge. The Indianapolis 500 was the most watched edition since 2008. Viewership up 41% versus 2024. It was also the first time since 2000 the Indianapolis 500 had a larger audience than the Daytona 500. All right. Love that. St. Petersburg was the most watched non-Indy 500 race since 2011, up 45% versus 2024. Nashville was the third most watched non-Indy 500 race in the past 2 years, up 136% versus 2024. So that's great. I think all those things are very positive, and I know Mark Miles was very excited to share that with all of us drivers individually via email, which was pretty cool. And shout out to the Fox team. And everyone's going to learn. Like, over this offseason, there's a lot to learn. And they're going to do it. Yeah. I truly believe that. I think there's so much that can be done that will be better. Again, the director did a great job. It was his first year directing for IndyCar. And, I mean, he called us early on in the season, called me, talked to people, tried to get information. That's what you want to see. You want to see people learning. You want to see you see things like that happen. So I believe that we're only going to see a completely upgraded package for next year. And again, like we mentioned earlier in these shows, this is the most important IndyCar offseason since I've been alive, I think. So
trip to moon is going well, essentially. I mean, that's what all that means. Is like, you set a goal and you go, and it's all unfolding. So it's good to see.
Absolutely. One other thing really quick that happened today. This was an interesting one, and I know we've been talking a lot about the news, but this is what's going on in the sport, and I like talking about it. We're just chatting IndyCar,
rambling, right, and we're going to get to everything else.
Absolutely. So NTT Data. This is from Nathan Brown, by the way, on his Twitter account. NTT Data triggered an out clause in its deal with Arrow McLaren and will leave its role as one of the team's major sponsors after the 26th season. So not this year, but after next year. NTT Data landed an out for 27-28 in renegotiations after Alex Palou opted not to join the team. So that's a wild one. You're going to see a lot probably in this offseason with that whole Alex Palou McLaren lawsuit. I know that there's they go to court, I believe, in later on in this in the fall. So that will be interesting to follow. And NTT wanted to be a part of the Alex Palou car, which obviously he's multi-time champion now. And well, they've been, I would say, not quite as successful with the car they've been on.
It's okay.
No, I just, it's one
true.
of those, it's one of those things, there's no way around it, but Nolan Siegel, is not, Alex Palou.
No,
that's just, there's just no way, there's no way around that one. I hate to say it, and Nolan Siegel, obviously, good young driver, but Alex Palou and also the other McLaren drivers. Well, the McLaren drivers finished second and fifth in the championship. Nolan Siegel was 22nd in the championship. So NTT Data is probably not getting as much coverage as they would like. So I understand them seeking an out clause. And the NTT folks are great. They're honest, they support our series.
But the title sponsor the series.
They're the title sponsor. Yeah, I mean it's, and I've got to do a lot of events for those folks, and they're incredible people. But what an interesting kind of nugget to the whole McLaren business profile. You know what I mean? It's still McLaren, but NTT. Think of where they were before, right? Like Tony Kanaan. They've been with really successful drivers, and they're probably just, I see it. And so they're not maybe as thrilled being on Nolan Siegel's car. Do we see that? Does somehow McLaren switch? Now, the thing about McLaren is they have so many partners that I'm sure all the partners are tied to each car, right? Because they have enough sponsorship that, you could run my team, my Juncos Hollinger, for like 20 years with it. You know what I mean? So it's something that's pretty impressive, and I got to respect their business department. But yeah, that was just an interesting thing to follow. I think you will see that will probably play a part in the Alex Palou lawsuit. That will probably play a big part. So I don't know how much public stuff we will know about the whole Palou McLaren lawsuit as it goes on, but that will be something to follow. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. But that's something I wanted to follow. That's going to be a big thing to kind of pay attention to as we roll into this offseason. What do you think, Chase?
I'm curious to know, is there anything legally that stops them from trying to go talk to Chip Ganassi? They wanted to be on
They've been
Alex
there before.
Palou.
Yeah,
they wanted to be on Alex Palou's car. I mean, Alex Palou is still in the series. He still drives. Obviously, he has some of the larger sponsors in the series. I mean, we saw Chip Ganassi bring in Solo this year, which was really
Solo
cool
Cups,
to have the red car. Obviously DHL is a big sponsor over there. We've seen the OpenAI car.
And DHL was at another team, remember? So DHL was at Andretti, and then they went to Chip Ganassi. Does NTT go back to
sponsors want to be with winners, and that is the whole root of why sponsorship is so cool in racing. It's one thing that got me into racing. It got me into NASCAR. I was familiar with these brands that I saw on these cars. And when you understand that a brand or a company that's very successful and they take a lot of pride in what they do, they want to make sure that's reflected exactly the way that they look at their business. It wants to be mirrored that way. So that's the big thing for me is I'm just going to be looking to see waiting to see how many NTT guys do we have outside of the Chip Ganassi office, and because it could very much still go down. And then how does McLaren treat that, or how do they look at that? Because there's a lot to it, and I know that I've learned a lot. I've learned a little bit about the legal system this year with a couple of news stories outside of this series. So I'm still nowhere near knowledgeable as a lawyer or anybody else, but I can definitely see where that could stir up some trouble on multiple fronts. But if I'm NTT and that's what I was expecting to get, then usually big businesses like that, they have owners that have been built on taking risks, and I could definitely see them maybe going to knock at Chip Ganassi's door. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be looking out for to see if they try to make that push.
Love it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, I think for now that's about all the news that we've got to cover, and we can get into our little championship dive. We're going to dive right into the championship. We've got stat sheets. We've got things that we can just fill you in on. And I think what we're going to do is, Chase, I'm going to let you take the first three. We're going to kind of go 3 by 3 here. And how this is set up, we're going to talk about the driver's best oval start, best oval finish, best road course start, and best road course finish. Chase, well, let's just eliminate Alex Palou right out the gate because it's first all across the board.
Yeah, there's just one.
We don't need to talk about that. Alex Palou first all across the board. And honestly, it's the same for Pato too. It's first all across the board. First, his best oval start was Nashville, obviously pole. Best finish, oval, Iowa first. He had 2 poles at both Thermal and Portland. And I know I'm taking this from you, Chase, but first at Toronto. Those 2 we don't need to talk about. Is there anything you want to say? Good drivers.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I feel like this list, we should start this out probably,
it starts to get more interesting once you get to Dixon on, I would say.
That's where we should start this. We know Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward finished 1 and 2 in the championship, but starting with Dixon, looking at what he did this year, he finished 4th in Indy on an oval, 2nd in Iowa.
That was his best start.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Started. Okay, you're right. Started 4th, finished 2nd in Iowa. Then he started 6th at St. Pete, finished 1st. The only win he had was in Mid-Ohio. Saw some stuff that came out about him. The one thing that we don't have mentioned on here that I feel like should be mentioned, he's now 21 seasons with a win, which makes him won at least one race in 23 of 25 seasons. So shout out to the GOAT. Just got to put that there. It was a very off-putting season for Dixon, but when you look at these numbers now, it's like when I was watching it all unfold through the season, and you get to see it kind of all put here on a spreadsheet, you're like, okay, was it that bad? Like, I mean, it seems like a little dip. It's just a little dip. He's still coming back. Funny how no one retired, by the way. Just wanted to say that. Funny how
not yet.
Drivers.
Yeah, shout out to the guy who thought he was cool by putting out some wild tweets. No one's retired yet, so we'll keep an eye out, though. We'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, you got to start there with Dixon. Obviously, he's already kind of said that he's definitely looking to double down, come back, and there's a lot that he can do there working with like Kiffin. And then obviously, I don't really know how much Alex Palou hasn't already learned from Scott Dixon. It seems like apparently he's already taken his brain and applied it in the car. So moving to Kyle Kirkwood, he's his best start on an oval was 6th at Milwaukee. His best finish was obviously his win that he had at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Then we've got he started first at Long Beach, finished first at Long Beach, also finished first at Detroit. So Kyle Kirkwood, it really seemed like he was starting this year off to where, he was like, hey, I'm the street shark. I'm the guy. I'm the one you need to be watching here at Andretti. We talked a lot about that. So there kind of was a little bit of fall off, I feel like, after that win that he had at Worldwide Technology Raceway. But for him to, and when I say fall off, I mean obviously podium finishes. Christian Lundgaard, though, is another guy that's kind of in that same caliber, and it's funny how it all shakes out this way. His best start on an oval, he started 3rd in Nashville. Best finish was 6th at Milwaukee, which I am very, very proud of him for that one. There was a lot of people saying he wasn't going to do good on the ovals this year. When you look at his stats from last year, it just showed that was completely wrong. Best start on a road course for Christian, 2nd at Thermal in Mid-Ohio, and then best finish, 2nd at Barber, Laguna, and Portland. So he had his fair share of finishes, but McLaren kind of had that rocky start this year. We were all tossing up, who's the king at McLaren? Is it Pato? Is it Christian Lundgaard? Was having some of those better finishes. So I think that starting off
a lot of podiums for Christian Lundgaard. And he, honestly, what was interesting is heading into Nashville, he actually could have finished 3rd in the championship. It was close enough to where if he had a good Nashville race, he could have finished 3rd in the championship. Obviously, they had a failure there. So that was actually quite a big detriment to his championship fight overall, because he finished, I think, 2nd to last or something like that in Nashville, and he only finished 2 points behind Kyle Kirkwood. And Kyle Kirkwood finished obviously quite well in Nashville. So Lundgaard, I think, dropped almost 2 spots overall in the championship just from that last race. So that was a real tough finish for him. He still had 11 top 10s on the year. That's more than Kyle Kirkwood. Not quite as much as Pato and Scott Dixon, but still a good amount of top 5s, a good amount of top 10s. But Lundgaard, I would say, was on pace to finish 3rd in the championship had he had Nashville go well. So that was really interesting. And it's true. At the beginning of the season, Kyle Kirkwood, just to go back to it, it seemed like he was going to be the guy. He was going to be the one to help go up against, Alex Palou. But that team did seem to have, when that team struggles, it seems that they struggle a little bit more aggressively than like when Ganassi struggles. You know what I mean? It seems like Ganassi is able to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more at the front consistently, make all the right decisions, and just eliminate all the tiniest of mistakes. So really interesting on that one there. But let's continue on. So there's a couple other interesting fun facts too, once we get deeper into it. And this is a driver who had one of them, which I think is interesting. But Felix Rosenqvist finished 6th in the championship. Felix Rosenqvist led 8 laps in total during the year. 8 laps.
Wow.
Alex Palou led 778 laps during the season. Alex Palou led 778 laps. Pato O'Ward led 258 laps. Those two were really on their own island until you get all the way to Joseph Newgarden, who led 393 laps this season, which is crazy. We'll talk about where Joseph Newgarden was in the championship, but what an interesting spread of leading races, finishing races in certain spots. But Felix Rosenqvist, his best oval start was 2nd at Iowa. Started on the front row. Very impressive there. And best oval finish was fourth at the Indy 500. So that was a huge day for those guys. But again, solid across the board on both road and ovals, both road street courses and ovals. Best road course start was second at Portland, and best road course finish was second at Road America. So again, just a solid year for Felix across the board. He had a couple issues, that they had to deal with during the season that probably prevented them from a few good results. But let's move on to Colton Herta. So Colton Herta, I would say a tougher year for Colton with some things that were of no fault of his own. His best oval start was 8th at Gateway, his best oval finish, which this for me is a staggering result. His best oval finish all year long was 11th, which again, we're
crazy.
I find that wild, to be honest, because he was a winner on ovals last year. First, his best road course start obviously was pole at Detroit, pole at Toronto. Again, street course dog. He's super fast there. But his best finish on the road courses were third at Detroit and Laguna. So couldn't quite convert the pole positions to wins. But again, very fast. And just a lot of moments for Colton Herta this year that were just, I would say, a bit out of its control and kind of unlucky, but just a few, some pit stop issues that they struggled with there. A couple different things. Like, let's look, for example.
Just a lot of out of the seat moments, essentially.
Yeah, but what's interesting too to see sometimes is the Firestone pit stop performance sheet.
Yeah.
So that for someone who's trying to fight in the championship, Colton is the 26 car. He had the least points of any of the Andretti cars in the pits. So Colton was 14th in the Pit Stop Performance Award championship, which is obviously related to all the pit stop activities. So again, difficult moments for Colton Herta. His teammates were 9th and 10th in the Firestone Pit Stop Performance Award. And let me have you guess who all the best teams were in the pits during the year.
Let's go with Penske.
Ganassi, McLaren, and Penske.
Okay, yeah.
The top 7 cars.
More.
The top 7 cars are the cars that probably spend the most and are the largest organizations. So
we love pit dogs.
What a surprise! What a surprise!
Gotta have good pit dogs.
Yep. So that was interesting there. But one thing I found interesting about our next driver, so Marcus Armstrong was 8th in the championship, really solid. Marcus Armstrong's best finishes were actually on ovals, which is crazy. His best oval start was 11th. He had a podium at Iowa, which is incredible. I mean, a guy who never raced ovals before he came to IndyCar, his only podium of the year was at Iowa. So really impressive. He seems to have taken to the ovals pretty well. His best road course start was Toronto, 3rd. Best road course finish was only 5th at Road America. Remember, he was on the podium last year at Detroit. So Marcus Armstrong is actually becoming a very well-rounded driver. I see him being very good in the championship next year. I see him maybe fighting even in the top 5 in the championship. So, so that was the next 3, and I'll let you move on to Will Power, our first Penske driver in the championship discussion.
Yeah. Just got to say really quickly, the consistency out of Meyershank Racing this year, I think, is really something to watch going into 2026, especially with Marcus growing as a and from a young man to a man, and then Felix Rosenquist is just, I mean, you look at that line right there, that's insane. Meyershank Racing, I think this partnership that they have right now is huge for them. So really excited to see how they keep moving. But yeah, let's move to the Ozzy Osbourne of racing, William Power. We've got 1st at Gateway, which was his best start, 3rd at Iowa, which is best oval finish, and then 3rd at Portland is his best road course start. 1st at Portland is his best road course finish. I don't think there's any surprises there. We know the year that Penske had. He was the top dog at Penske this year. But right behind him, a guy that maybe you wouldn't expect to see because of the gap I felt like there was between Will and his teammates. But Scott McLaughlin, best start 2nd at Worldwide Technology Raceway. We all know how that one ended up. Best finishes were 3rd at the Milwaukee Mile and Nashville. They really picked it up late in the year with those ovals. Then we go into him on the pole at St. Pete, which we all at that moment thought this was going to be a huge year. And
that's his year,
third at Barber, which he's just been so consistent and just dominant at that track. So for him to get a podium there, to continue that streak was great. And then
one thing real quick about Will Power too. Will Power had some like crazy ill-timed engine failures. Like Will Power had some difficult failures and was still the highest finishing Penske driver. So pretty wild.
The whole team, it's just like he always drew the long straw out of the three of them all year long, because like that was just constantly what was happening. It was like, who's going to get, who's going to get whose shit's going to hit the fan the hardest today. These like they were required to do that every race almost until the end. So the next driver we're going to cover is David Malukas. His best starts are second at the Milwaukee Mile and Nashville, which they trimmed that car out really well, some of those ovals for him. And his best finish was second at the Indy 500 on an oval. Then we had second in Detroit was his best road course start, and then seventh his best finish at Road America. I think that's pretty telling about a lot of people talk about like how diverse the IndyCar field is. David Malukas is definitely one of those people that seem to lean a little bit more towards the ovals than the street and the road courses, but his development nonetheless really built up. Hope he's doing okay as well. I haven't really heard much news about his hand or anything after Nashville, but just really good to see him on track all year long. He had that incident with McLaren last year, so there was kind of a small gap there. So he kind of got to come back, and this really just shows, hey, he's not far off the mark. Like, he's very close and very well-rounded. And I mean, just looking at this, what we're looking at right now, looking at how he started and how he finished it at both types of tracks, I mean, it's it's looking good. It really is looking good for him.
One thing that's interesting about David, too, is you look at there was quite a large points gap from P10 in the championship to P11. So you have Will Power and Scott McLaughlin were separated by 1 point. But then it's 356 points for Scott McLaughlin to 318 for David Malukas. So there was quite a large gap, and you see exactly where it is. So Scott McLaughlin, 10th in the championship, he had 9 top 10s. David Malukas actually only had 5. That's one more than I did. You know what I mean? Like, right. David Malukas had exactly one more top 10 than me. And so there was a few moments there, I think, for him that were also out of his control. If you see, he had a lot of great starts, a lot of good qualifying spots, and probably missed a little bit on the strategy side, maybe missed a little bit just at the end of some of the races. But again, 11th in the championship is not too bad. He beat Joseph Newgarden by 2 points. Obviously, that's who we'll get to next. Joseph Newgarden finished 12th in the championship, and only 2 or 3 races ago, essentially after Portland, he was 18th in the championship. So it's amazing what kind of 2 final good weekends can do. That's what we were hoping for. Obviously, we went into Portland very optimistic for our road course race package, and we were on for a good day there. But that obviously we all know how that went. But even Milwaukee, we felt was a very large miss for us because of how that went strategically, and that was a difficult finish for us points-wise. But again, like I mentioned, the most staggering thing to see is how many laps Joseph actually led during the year, which goes to show you how, I mean, he had the second most laps led. Second most, and he finished 12th in the championship. So a lot went wrong for Joseph Newgarden. We obviously saw what happened at the World Wide Technology Raceway. We saw, him getting spun by Scott Dixon at Portland. There's numerous occasions where something went wrong for Joseph Newgarden. But yeah, 7 top 10s, 3 top 5s, 1 win, obviously, 393 laps led. A staggering amount of laps led for Joseph Newgarden. And a season that he will immediately forget and be locked right back in, come next year. I think that's going to be a big one for him. Yeah. So anyway, let's get to Christian Rasmussen, who was obviously the highest finishing ECR driver. And obviously he's a winner. So a big win for that group this year. His best start on an oval was 9th at Milwaukee. Obviously he won Milwaukee. Best road course start was 10th at Detroit, and his best road course finish was 9th at Laguna. I think that group overall, for sure, struggled a little bit more on the road and street courses, especially, at the beginning of the year and every now and then in the middle of the year. But, that win really makes up a lot of points. When you get a win, that's a ton of points, and he did it. So that's all we had to say. After that, we have Rinus VeeKay, who Rinus VeeKay was looking like he could be a top 10 championship contender for a while. 7 top 10s for Rinus. Only 2 top 5s, but 7 top 10s. And I think several different races, obviously, they had some issues. And that happens. But he obviously had fantastic results every now and then. You know what I mean? But strong for the most part. Best start, Milwaukee, 11th on an oval. Best oval start was 11th at Milwaukee. Best finish was 7th at Gateway. And again, that one, Rinus was not actually that quick, but they nailed the strategy, nailed how that race was going, and finished 7th at Gateway. So that was a big day for those guys. The best start on the road course, really impressive, 5th at Barber. Really impressive for that team. Obviously finished 2nd at Toronto. Big strategy play there at Toronto. Big strategy play for Rinus, and they nailed it. He did a great job. So those are the next 3 in the championship. And Rinus, what's hilarious is Rinus slotted himself just in between the 2 ECR drivers.
Yeah, he did, right?
Rinus, the whole year long, was ahead of the ECR drivers, and you see Christian Rasmussen, Rinus VeeKay, Alex Rossi in the championship.
He's the cream in the Oreo now.
Yikes. Yeah.
So I was looking at this too, and what's interesting to me is we all know that Rinus VeeKay, he's kind of got that sauce for Barber, kind of like Scotty Mack has. So I automatically, everyone was like, oh, there's no way that Dale Coyne's going to be able to come up with that. And I was like, watch, I'm telling you, it's not so much about what can go wrong, but it's about how well Rinus knows this track. And that turned out. But when you look at that best finish 2nd at Toronto, when you look at that 7th at Worldwide Technology Raceway, you got to wonder, those races were definitely after Michael Cannon coming in. He brought a lot to that organization this year, and I know that pairing right there could help a ton. Going into the second half of the ECR Rinus sandwich is Alexander Rossi. Best start 12th at the Indy 500 at Worldwide Technology and at Milwaukee. Best finish on an oval was 4th at Milwaukee, which obviously we know ECR had some sauce at Milwaukee this year.
Yes.
His best start on a road course was 6th at Thermal in Portland. Best finish 5th at Portland. Kind of a
which was his first top 5 all year long once he got to Portland.
Right.
So that was a very staggering stat. Alex Rossi obviously has been very competitive his entire career, but that team obviously struggled for the majority of the year. Their investments are paying off. Clearly, I think that at the end of the season they made a very large step forward. But that's hopefully what should happen when that level of investment happens. It should.
Yes.
I've said this for years, and this is
Big
literally
brand.
the truth. Money equals speed. You got to that's what happens.
You got to be
more
able to
money
pay
equals
the
more
best to
speed.
be the best, and that's the way racing's always worked. The thing for me is when I look at these numbers, most people be like, okay, well, I'll take that. I feel like for a guy like Rossi, this is maybe more of a season to forget for him. I feel like there wasn't as much of the highlights that he may have wanted because he's an uber competitive guy. So
but the thing about Alex, which is interesting. Alex always, even if their car is awful, what Alex did a lot of the times, he would end up finishing 10th. Or he would end up, somehow you'd be like, Alex started 23rd and he finished 10th. He's very relentless in the middle of the race when no one is paying attention at all. And all of a sudden you're like, how on earth did Alex finish 10th? He was really slow at the beginning of the race. Yeah. That's just what he does.
It's kind of a phantom.
Yeah. And so, he had 7 top 10s, you know what I mean? Which is really solid. And that was someone who, for a while in the championship, was right next to me. We were like, oh, shoot, we're battling it out here. This is kind of wild. This is not really how it's supposed to be. But they had a really, really strong second half of the year. Yeah. And the next driver, who I believe you're going to talk about, had a very different year.
Yes, he had a very, very different year. And definitely something I'm going to bring up too. Let's get to Santino Ferrucci. Best start 9th at Iowa on an oval. Best oval finish 5th at the Indy 500 and at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Then on the road courses, Best start was 11th at the Indy Road Course. Best finish was 2nd at Detroit. I know there was a lot of pit cycling, had some cautions. Some things fell out in a way that kind of allowed him to get there, and they played that strategy right on time with kind of the cards they were dealt. And so those things work out like that sometimes. But with Santino, man, we always know we've called him on this program for many of years. Talented driver.
Yep, talented driver.
He's great on these ovals, but it did seem like this year that maybe something organizationally, there may have been a little bit more focus on Malukas at AJ Foyt Racing. You feel like he was kind of the name there at AJ Foyt Racing. There was a lot more attention on Malukas this year. I don't know if that really had anything to do with his performance, but he did make a lot of comments about his cars. He did make a lot of comments about how things just weren't kind of similar to what he was used to over the last couple of years at AJ Foyt Racing. So I don't really know if it was more of a him thing or if it was a team thing, but there was definitely a different performance this year. We did see that. So hopefully he can find a way to rebound and kind of get back to his structure, because he's always fun to watch on the ovals as well, just like you and that other group of guys that really specialize on ovals in IndyCar.
People were saying that ever since he called me a backmarker, he never finished ahead of me. So that was a tough one. I don't know if that's exactly true, but I think that was a real thing. But
Santino learned
a great start to the year. Like he did start the year, like he was in the top 10 of the championship. But then once we hit one point, it was like a complete collapse. And again, very fast. And he, again, a wild situation there. I don't know what happened. But after Mid-Ohio, it was like, falling off the face of the earth. So
Toronto took a lot of wind out of his sails too. He didn't even get to race, man. I mean, with that
crashing in the warm up, tough look there. And again, his podium at Detroit, that very impressive, but huge strategic play for those guys.
Right,
huge strategic play, and that's part of IndyCar. We would have liked to have taken advantage of that at some point, but we couldn't make that happen.
You got to roll the dice sometimes, but he's good at it. And then the last guy out of these three is the man that we have all learned to call Kiff Dog this year, Kiffin Simpson, who I am just I've gotten to really know him this year. I've had a lot of conversation with him off the track. Just a great guy, just a great kid, man. And he is very locked in. You can tell that he's all about his craft. To see what he was able to do at Nashville on an oval, with him not being really an oval racer whatsoever, or not having a lot of experience on those ovals, was incredible. But his best start was 8th at Nashville. Best finish was 4th at Nashville. So it really came to him right there at the end of the season. Best start on the road courses was 3rd at Mid-Ohio. Best finish 3rd in Toronto. So really some good consistency that we've seen out of him. He's with a great organization like Chip Ganassi. He's learning underneath two of the greatest to ever do it that we've seen thus far. I mean, you couldn't ask to be in a better position than Kiffin Simpson is right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, he truly is in the best possible learning position you could be as a young driver. And Ganassi also tested at Nashville, and you could clearly see that was a benefit for those guys. He was fast there, not as much as the beginning of the race, but at the end, they nailed the strategy, did exactly what they needed to do. And he raced Scott McLaughlin like a professional, raced him very, very cleanly, very, very well. I mean, that team is the best in the sport currently. And, Kiffin finishing where he did, certainly at Toronto, very impressive. Again, big strategic play there, but he was able to make it happen and still held on. It's just wild to see. That was someone that was, I would say, most improved. If we're going to hand out a most improved driver over the season, I would say Kiffin Simpson wins that award. He was definitely impressive, and it's tough for me to say that, obviously, because I know we all know how I've said things about Kiffin before. But 6 top 10s, 3 top 5s. A couple great strategic moves, but you got to have. That's what Ganassi does. Ganassi will always be smartest on strategy. All those guys are just the smartest people, but the driver still has to execute, and he did it. So.
That's it.
And then we move on to me.
Yeah.
18th in the championship. That's not where we want to be, but a couple quick facts. It is the most points a driver has scored for the Juncos Hollinger Racing Team. My career best, I think, in the championship is 17th, but that was only when there were 22 cars. There are now 27 cars running per event. So it's a little bit different. And, 4 top 10s, 1 top 5, obviously. we finished. We missed out on several events. To kind of go through my season, there were, Long Beach was essentially a DNF. Portland was a DNF, which we could have been very good at. Mid-Ohio was a miss, obviously getting run off the road by Santino. Complete, essentially like a DNF. So really difficult couple events for us. A few just misses. I mean, we led 51 laps during the year, which is two less than Christian Lundgaard, who finished fifth in the championship. You see Graham Rahal as well, who finished behind me in the championship, who led, 59 laps. We were at the front of races, and we needed to figure out a way to convert those. We missed out on some strategy things. We missed out on a few different things. I believe that this was, without a doubt, my most competitive season in the series. I believe we found ourselves up front a lot. But overall, we'll go through the exact results. Best qualifying on an oval was second at Iowa, and fifth at Nashville was my best oval finish. But we had a chance to win the Indy 500, and we missed out on that one. We definitely had a chance to win Iowa. Even the second race at Iowa, we got trapped 2 laps down on the last pit stop, and we literally were at the front that entire day. So that is one that you look back on, and I literally want to put my head through a dishwasher because it feels awful. And then our best start at a road course was 12th at Mid-Ohio, and best road course finish was 14th at Laguna Seca, which is obviously not good. That is not good at all. But we were in position multiple times to have better results on road courses. St. Pete included, Mid-Ohio included, Portland for sure included, and just were not able to convert those. So, my strongest year, I would say, in IndyCar, but not exactly where we wanted to be, but still qualify on the front row to finish in the top 5, finish in the top 10 several times, was solid. We needed to clean up a lot of small things at a few different tracks. So after that, we've got Graham Rahal, which is kind of wild. Graham Rahal has obviously been very successful in IndyCar for many years. Difficult year for them. Really difficult year for them. Graham Rahal, this episode's gone on very long, so we're going to keep trying to get this done. But Graham Rahal's best starts on ovals were 10th at both Iowa and Milwaukee, which is actually, I'd say, a step forward for those guys. Best oval finish was 11th at Iowa. Qualified on the front row at the Indy road course, finished second, and then his best finish on a road course was 4th at Portland. So very different shift for both of us there. And that basically goes into another driver who I would say had a year that he wants to immediately forget. And that's Marcus Ericsson. Marcus Ericsson, Indy 500 champion, multiple-time race winner, finishing quite low in the championship. His best oval start was 9th at Indy, and his best oval finish was 13th at Gateway, which is very surprising for Marcus, I would say. Best start at a road course was Thermal and Long Beach, 5th. Best finish on a road course was 5th at Toronto. So solid there on the road courses, but just did not have the year that they wanted.
No, and then having the Indy 500 results turned around too. Yes. Took a lot of wind out of the sails as well for that team. Yes, I felt like they were already kind of like running in a bad direction, and that happens. Like sometimes you just have those seasons where you just continuously get gut punched, and it's just like, how are you going to rebound? And I remember in the beginning of the season, we were all talking about how things were looking good for him because he'd been doing a lot more neck workouts.
I want to see our power rankings. I think my power rankings, when we get into that next week, I'm going to be like, oh boy, I think I put Marcus Ericsson very high up. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, we'll get into some of the rest, just kind of rounding out. We've got about 7 more guys to quickly round out. Callum Ilott, best oval start, 13th at Iowa. Best oval finish, 9th in Nashville. Best road course start was 9th at Road America, and best road course finish, 6th at Laguna and Portland. For Prema being a brand new team, obviously there's a lot of news right now about what's going to happen to them, where are they going to be at. Callum didn't have I would feel like no matter what the results are this year, it's kind of like you're kind of like in the sandbox, right now. You're learning, you're trying to figure things out, you're trying to put it all together. So I automatically wanted to
great last few races too. Great last year. I mean, he literally finished the season, I would say, on a high note. He had more top 10s than both Graham and Marcus in front of him. Just a solid finish to the season. Very difficult first half. As a new team, it was always going to be that way. But Callum is still a very talented, very quick driver.
Absolutely. Some results that I'm kind of shocked to see looking, we talked a little bit about Nolan Siegel, and I know a lot of people have their opinions on him, but best start is 8th at Iowa, best finish 13th at the Indy 500, best road course start.
13th is his best oval finish at Indy, and he crashed on the last lap, which is wild. Like, to crash on the last lap and still that be your best oval finish is kind of a wild one.
A top 15 crashing, pretty wild. And then you have 4th at Mid-Ohio for the best road course start, and then 8th for your best finish at Road America, which getting a top 10 there, not bad, but I think that I don't know how many of those that there actually were. He was just kind of very quiet. It wasn't really somebody that a lot of people saw on the broadcast.
Just 2 top 10s for Nolan. Just 2 top 10s for Nolan.
So, I mean, and I feel like there was nothing really out of the box. We kind of all expected that from Nolan Siegel, I feel like, going into this season, or at least a lot of fans. There wasn't like a lot of extra hype built up around him. But rounding out my 3 right here, Louis Foster, Rookie of the Year, Louis Foster. Best start 12th at Iowa on an oval. Best finish on an oval was 12th, right in front of Nolan Siegel at the Indy 500. Obviously, he put the thing on the pole at Road America, so first there. And then his best road course finish 11th at Road America and the Indy Road Course. RLL really had something kind of cooking for a moment in the summertime at those road courses, so it was really cool to see that. At least he got that pole. I think that's what really helped him. But then again, if I could say the same thing about Schwartzman, he got the pole at the 500. So it's like, what did this come down to? What did this Rookie of the Year battle come down to? And I'll let you kind of talk about Schwartzy next going in. But
Louis Foster really quick too, kind of qualified well a lot, and just a big shift in how the races went. I mean, talk about a colossal drop back in a lot of the races. And again, that might be the way that car is set up. That might be him adjusting to IndyCar racing, but obviously he still was Rookie of the Year. But still quite far back in the Drivers' Championship. But again, that was enough to be Rookie of the Year. Got a pole position, which is very impressive. But I'm sure they see that the pace is there. To qualify on pole at an IndyCar race is very, very, that's massive. So to do that was really impressive. Robert Schwartzman, again, similar to Callum Ilott, new team, new situation, new tracks for him. He was never really expected to be high up in the championship, I don't think, because you just have so much to learn. Qualified on pole at the Indy 500. Literally, pole at the Indy 500, that's still, I think, for the last 10 years and for the next 10 years, that's still going to be one of the craziest things of all time.
It broke the internet.
Wild.
It broke the internet.
That race, again, didn't go quite as well for those guys. His best oval finish was 9th at Iowa, which is okay. His best road course start, which this is kind of a wild one, 17th at Road America, and best road course finish was 15th at Portland. Robert, there's been a lot of talk about him not really enjoying being over here. I think it looked like he was enjoying loving life, getting pole at the Indy 500, but I'm very curious to see what his future holds. I think he's a fast driver, but I don't know. It was kind of hard to tell what was really going on there and what he really wants to do, but definitely not a slow driver. So we'll round out the last 3 here. Stingray Robb, obviously my teammate, his best oval start was 17th at the Indy 500, actually. And his best oval finish was Nashville, the final race, 16th. Best road course start was 17th at the Indy road course. And then he had his top 10. His only top 10 of the year was at Long Beach, 9th. Great strategy from the team there. Great pace from him as well there. But obviously not what Stingray wanted. Our car didn't quite make the leader circle. Just missed it out to Nolan Siegel. So that was a tough one. But, again, a top 10 for Stingray at Long Beach was a good result for him. And, I'm sure he'll be wanting to improve that wherever he is in the future. Obviously, if he's back with Juncos, I don't know what everyone's plans are, honestly, but we'll see. But to round it out, Devlin DeFrancesco, really difficult year for him. He has still never got a top 10 in IndyCar. His best start on the road course was 15th at Milwaukee. Best finish was 11th at the Indy 500. He was kind of the car right in front of the leaders there at the end in traffic. 5th at the Indy road course. This is his best road course start. Great qualifying efforts at the Indy road course somehow, but he finished 17th at the Indy road course. That was his best road street course finish of the year.
Crazy.
So that's a tough one. And obviously, Jacob Abel was last. 22nd was his best oval start. He finished 11th at Iowa. Now, he took advantage of some great strategy, had their best finish of the year, 11th at Iowa. Started 20th at Detroit. That was his best road course start. Finished 18th at Detroit. But not what Jacob Abel wanted this year, obviously. Didn't make the Indy 500. That was a really tough one. Just overall, just a brutal one for him. But he didn't necessarily. I would say the positive sign for Jacob Abel is he didn't put the car on the wall. The guy drove, I would say, for the most part, smart. But yeah, tough year for those guys. So that's our championship roundup. I hope you guys learned something from that. Maybe there's something exciting there that you can take from. But yeah, that was a very long episode. So let's get to our final segment. Obviously, we will probably have a guest next week. Who knows? But I can't wait to get to the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who will make up the field?
Well, this week on the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week, we have an old race. We went right back into the history books, which I love doing. Right after World War I, the 1919 Indianapolis 500 results, won by Howdy Wilcox, of course, a legendary name. But we found a driver by the name that I will tell you after I tell you where he finished. He finished 18th. Top 20 day, but a sad day. Louis Lecoq. Lecoq?
How do you spell that?
Louis Lecoq, Lecocq.
Oh, that's
maybe
Lecoq.
There's a like an apostrophe or some sort of pronunciation that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But Louis Lecoq finished 18th. And again, a sad story. American race car driver Lecoq and his riding mechanic Robert Bandini were killed in the 1919 Indy 500 after the fuel tank on their car exploded. Wild. So only one start for Louis Lecoq. We found a guy who has only one Indy 500 start in 1919, and the poor guy died at 27 years old.
He was from Pella, Iowa, born in Pella, Iowa.
Okay.
He met the Duesenberg brothers in Des Moines, Iowa in 1913, began working as a mechanic for their fledgling racing team. So, I mean, he was about it. Lecoq was about that action. It's crazy that he...
what a last name.
I know, right?
A C and a Q? Like, that's crazy.
Like, he walked up everywhere. He just had like a chicken or like a rooster with him. He was just, like that was him.
Louis Lecoq. They've
got they've got a good breed of him. If you go to kansasracinghistory.com /LouisLecoq.htm, you can find a really cool little write-up about him on a little web page. And they got a nice photo here. It said the signed photograph of Louis Lecoq was taken in either 1915 or 1916. The car is believed to have been a bullet. So there you go.
Man, that's crazy. That's a wild one. So anyway, that's our Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week. So yeah, there we have it. Next week, maybe we'll have more news to talk about. Again, I'm thinking all the news is going to be out before we get to October, or at least most of the news. Dale Coyne says before Halloween. So
for sure,
who knows what will happen there? I'm sure we'll see some driver evaluation days with maybe some surprising names that you don't know about or that we maybe consider knowing about. We'll see. So with that, we appreciate you listening. Longer episode today. We appreciate you sticking with us through all of our excitement about Colton Herta and the Andretti Autosport announcement, Andretti Global, Andretti everything. We will see you next week on Speed Street. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, all the above. And yeah, once again, we will be back with another great show next week. Thank you. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.